$50,000 in as little as one business day. And they're A-plus rated with the Better Business Bureau.
On Deck has opened up so many doors for me now. Truly, the sky is the limit. I'm excited.
Apply now at OnDeckLending.com or call 800-326-5430. 800-326-5430. 800-326-5430.
Loan subject to lender approval.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. You're in the right place. Well, I'll tell you, it's a crazy world getting crazier all the time. And what's happening in Texas now with the flooding, of course, that's global warming. Of course, that's global warming, they're saying. Anyway, the death toll has risen to 19 in the Wimberley, San Marcos, and Houston area. Now Dallas is affected. A Texas dam on Padera Lake has fractured as a result of unprecedented flooding. Authorities are issuing warnings now as the dam may break in the coming hours, placing anyone in its path in peril. Local media began sounding the alarm with CBS affiliate KRLD reporting the dam had been breached around 12 p.m. GMT. That's Greenwich Mean Time. But no immediate danger was reported. But I'll tell you, when you see the pictures of it, it looks pretty bad. IRS. Oh, my gosh. Can you imagine if your company, had done the unthinkable by allowing 100,000 people to have their returns absconded or looked at or fraudulently whatever? If it happened to you as a business, you'd be out of business. But if it happens to the government, it's, hey, stuff happens. The IRS believes that a major cyber breach that allowed criminals to steal the tax returns. Now, wait a minute. Aren't you supposed to have sort of things in place? Don't you have an IT guy there that is supposed to keep this from happening? The IRS believes a major cyber breach that allowed criminals to steal the tax returns of more than 100,000 people originated in Russia. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's those Ruskies. It's a Russian crime syndicate. Oh, that's it. That's it. That's our story, and we're sticking to it. In what amounts to an escalation of what Washington claims is a cyber war against a growing list of so-called cyber adversaries. Now, wait a minute. That's not supposed to happen. But you can get away with it, and it doesn't really make that much difference if you are from the government, because everybody will forget about it in 2 weeks' time. I'm just astounded by this story. I'm astounded that they would tell you how inept they are, not care, and put that many people up for some kind of fraudulent response. It's beyond belief. You know those little wearable things that everybody's got now on their wrist to transmit data? They'll do everything. Oh, they'll even tell you how long you slept. Well, you know what? I kind of can figure that out myself, you know? Go to bed at 9 o'clock, you get up at 4. Well, that's pretty obvious, but I don't need a Bluetooth to tell me that. Anyway, a lot of people walk around with a sort of like an imaginary cord with them, and anybody that wants to know what they're doing. They're saying that if you've got a wearable on, almost anyone can track you. And because it would be silly to walk around, you know, with this invisible cord, I mean, people are practically doing that, though. Security has found that in these connections, they can be used to identify smartwatches, fitness trackers, and other products that rely on Bluetooth. They've released an Android app that can track these signals to prove it. Oh, great. If it wasn't bad enough to have your cell phone, now you put this bracelet on and everybody knows what you're doing. Vaccine Racket, amazing infographic, reveals financial connections behind the criminally run vaccine industry. We will be talking to Dr. Suzanne Humphreys about the criminally run vaccine industry in the next hour. After this 1 minute, 10-second break, let's talk about the 10 health benefits of black seed oil. And did you know the airlines spray flyers with pesticides inside the plane? Yeah, they do. We'll be back 1 minute, 10 seconds.
What have I learned so far? I've learned that there is no one path right for everyone. I've learned that without my high school diploma, I can only do so much. My options were limited. I found a free personalized learning program with Learn for Life that has a flexible schedule so I could keep my job while earning my high school diploma. I found new career training opportunities that would jumpstart my future. What have I learned so far? I've learned that I can change my life.
Are you 14 to 19 years old and looking for a free high school diploma program with flexible meeting times? This program allows you to keep your job or important family responsibilities while earning your high school diploma. If you've fallen behind on credits or dropped out of school completely, get back on track with free tutoring, a caring faculty, and one-on-one attention. For more information on how to reach your graduation goal, visit learnforlife.org. That's LEARN, the number 4, LIFE.org. Or enroll today by calling 877-360-LEARN. That's 877-360-LEARN.
You're on board KCAA's Inland Talk Express. KCAA, Loma Linda, 1050 a.m., the station that leaves no listener behind.
FBI falling behind on terrorism, down to the wire on the Patriot Act. I'm Michael Toscano. With the United Nations reporting a surge in ISIS recruitment around the world, the FBI is turning to local law enforcement for help. Here's Justice Correspondent Evan Perez.
Law enforcement officials tell me the FBI surveillance squads are tapped out. Not enough of them to track people who are using social media and talking to ISIS members overseas.
The Patriot Act due to expire in a few days, and with it the bulk collection of phone records. Congress is still on vacation, but White House spokesman Josh Earnest is urging them to act soon.
It's critically important for the Senate to act on the bipartisan legislation that's already passed the House. It includes important reforms for privacy, while at the same time also giving our law enforcement and our national security professionals the tools they need.
The Senate's scheduled to return to work Sunday, with the law expiring at midnight that night. The Labor Department says the number of people filing first-time claims for unemployment benefits up slightly, 282,000 last week. I'm Michael Toscano.
We are the Breakfast Defectors. We are reaching out to anyone trapped in their AM routine. We'll be at Taco Bell every morning starting at 7 a.m. You don't have to eat the same circle sandwiches over and over. Same is lame. You have options, delicious ones, like the Biscuit Taco, AM Crunch Wrap, Grande Scrambler, Mountain Dew Kickstart, Cinnabon Delights, or hot and iced coffee. Stop clowning around. Join us. Defect to the next generation of breakfast at Taco Bell. Wake up, live Moss at participating locations.
O'Reilly. Sign up to become an O'Reilly O Rewards member today and start earning instantly. O Rewards members earn $5 back for every $150 they spend, so if you haven't become a member yet, what are you waiting for? It's fast, easy, and free. O Rewards, it's your road to exclusive offers only at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
And good morning to you, 6:03 on a Thursday. It's Throwback Thursday. Get out those old pictures, right? In the Inland Empire. Well, looking like this. Morning low clouds, patchy low fog earlier today. Otherwise mostly sunny. Warmer in the afternoon. Highs Thursday near 87 and into the 90s Friday through Sunday. The mountains mostly clear with winds 15 to 20 miles an hour. Warmer afternoons, resort highs 70s and 80s. In the deserts, mostly sunny and warmer, highs in the 80s and 90s. Beaches today, well, afternoon clearing and a little warmer, highs around 73. Currently, just 58 degrees at Kcaa as we take a look at Inland Empire traffic. In Chino, stop-and-go traffic to 60 westbound between Central Avenue and the 57. Corona, stop-and-go traffic 91 westbound between McKinley Street and Green River Road. The 71 south is busy between Euclid Avenue and the 91. And an accident's got the shoulder blocked on the 91 westbound after I-15 in Corona, right around that construction. So expect a little bit of delay there. That's a look at weather and traffic from the only station that leaves no listener behind, KCAA, 1050 AM.
KCAA, where every day is a great day. KCAA, Loma Linda.
A bonsai tree finally dies after a 4-year battle with a college student. It's the Onion Radio News. This is Doyle Redland reporting. Small tree enthusiasts mourn the passing of an 18-year-old bonsai tree today, following a 4-year struggle for survival under the care of college student Eric Bonnerman. The tiny Scots pine, whose cultivation and delicate pruning is considered an art form in Japan, survived against all odds on 60 watts of incandescent light and spilled beer. Bonnerman's sometime girlfriend, Beth Harris.
Eric liked the tree as an ashtray.
Bonnerman plans to keep the deceased plant in case he needs a place to urinate while his roommate is in the bathroom. Doyle Redland for the Onion Radio News, online at theonion.com.
In AgNet West today, the EPA releases its final Waters of the U.S. rule. The story after this.
As warm weather arrives, so do the mites. And as any grower or PCA will tell you, these tiny pests cause big problems. But you don't have to stand for it. Fight the mite with Zeal miticide. In just one application, Zeal delivers effective, long-lasting control of a broad spectrum of mites, including spider mites and red mites. Zeal is now registered for field corn and can be used on a long list of crops, including tree nuts, grapes, palm fruit, stone fruit, cotton, cucumbers, melon, mint, strawberry, and more. And not only does Zeal give you long-lasting control, it also affects mites in all life stages, including eggs. Zeal begins to work quickly thanks to translaminar action that reaches mites where they feed. Don't let mites take over your crops this summer. Fight back with the proven long-lasting control of Zeal. Zeal, it lasts, so mites can't. From Valent USA Corporation, Zeal is recommended for use in preventive, threshold, or in-season miticide treatments in tree nuts and can be applied by ground or air in field corn. Always read and follow label instructions.
The EPA issued the new rules Wednesday to clarify which smaller streams, tributaries, and wetlands are covered by provisions of the Clean Water Act. 2 Supreme Court rulings had left the reach of the law uncertain. The rules have run into deep opposition from farm groups and the Republican-led Congress. The House voted to block the regulations earlier this month, and a similar effort is underway in the Senate. The agriculture industry has been concerned about the regulation of drainage ditches on farmland. The EPA and Army Corps said the only ditches that would be covered under the rule are those that look, act, and function like a tributary and could carry pollution downstream. EPA Administrator Gina McCarthy said the final rule singled out land and water features considered to be unique as still subject to case-by-case determination. The American Farm Bureau has led opposition to the rules, saying they could make business more difficult for farmers. The group said Wednesday that it would wait to review the final rules before responding. I'm Sabrina Hill for AgNetWest.com.
Who needs friends or Facebook when you have KCAA's Rant Line? You can get it all out at 909-353-1050 with no interruptions. Do you want to tell us how much you're learning from Dave Ramsey?
Keep your expenses down when you're a student.
Maybe you stink. You can't take a shower at your place and you really need to.
Work it down there at the largest online retailer in the United States, and they have him loading them trucks. I'm sure need a shower.
Perhaps you're having money issues.
Motel 6, the Jacker rates up. It used to be like $42. Now they're up to $59. Got about $4,000 in the bank, but working part-time, I don't want to whittle into that. Might need it later.
Whatever you need to get off your chest, we are here for you. Give us a call on the Rant Line at 909-353-1050 and rant. We'll listen, we won't interrupt, and we may even play your rant on this station that leaves no listener behind. KCAA 1050 AM.
Empire talks back.
The attitude that, well, the little guy cannot win seems to prevail, despite the fact that over time we've seen that the little guy, if he is persistent, he becomes the big guy.
Empire talks back.
No, it's because maybe people figure out a little knowledge is like smoke. It leads to the fire.
Empire talks back.
I think this drive for equality, this drive for justice is gathering steam as opposed to fading out. I think more and more people realize the importance of the freedoms that America represents.
Empire Talks Back with Wallace Allen and Friends, Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. on AM 1050 KCAA.
But now it seems like things are finally coming around.
Go ahead and say it. We're all ears. AM 1050 KCAA.
Good morning. Happy Thursday.
We are love Thursdays.
On the brink on KCAA AM 1050. We are the morning show. I'm Aaron Brinker.
I'm Tobin Brinker.
We've got Mark Westwood in the booth picking the pop music this morning. Mm-hmm. How is everybody? Mark, how you doing?
Feeling in an 80s mood today.
Yeah, I dig this song.
I'm always in an 80s mood.
He's always in an 80s mood.
I'm stuck in the 80s.
If you look on my Facebook page, I posted a 80s throwback picture.
Did you?
Yeah, from 1986, me and my mom and dad.
Oh, that's cool. Well, Tobin does teach middle school, so now that's why he's stuck in the 80s, because he was in the 80s. He was in middle school, or he was in middle school in the 80s.
Yes,
he wasn't in middle school for 10 years.
In the very early 80s. I've been in middle school for almost 20 years now, Aaron. Thank you very much.
As a teacher.
Tragic. Not really.
So yesterday you had some fun with your students.
I did. Yesterday, if you saw our Ustream, you would have seen that I was wearing my Angels baseball gear, and I like to play a game with my middle school kids. I'm a history teacher, and so I teach them the historical version of baseball. It's called Rounders, and it's a medieval version of baseball.
Apparently, they still play it in the UK. Kids still play it in the UK.
Yeah, and the kids love it. And it's enough different that it's fun and interesting to them, whereas baseball might seem a little boring, especially if you're not an athlete. Even the non-athletic kids really get into this just because it's so different. So they run the bases in the opposite direction. There's a couple different ways you can get out, and it's just it's a fun game. It's a fun game.
That's awesome. And
nobody was chanting Charlie today, right?
No. I have no pencils or paper out on the ball field.
Good.
That's
no
really good. No Charlie. Gosh.
Although I'm back in the classroom today, and I have a feeling I'm going to have to address this issue because it has been popping up. I put it on I have a teacher Facebook group, and teachers are chiming in. It is everywhere, even down at the second grade. I couldn't believe I had second grade teachers saying that the little second graders were doing this stuff. So that's disturbing.
That is disturbing. Well, before we get started, as I always do, I want to let people know all the ways you can listen to KCAA AM 1050. Of course, you can find us at 1050 on the AM dial, but you can also find us at kcaaradio.com. If you go to our website, you can find links to all of our shows, links to all of the podcasts from the shows. You can find links to all of our social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can watch our embedded Ustream feed right on the website, or you can click through to Ustream and watch it on their website. If you have a flip phone or a home phone and you want to listen, but you don't have a radio, you can call to listen at 832-999-1050. That's 832-999-1050. If you're heading into LA and OC and you want to be able to listen to us all the way to work without any fuzziness or any static, you can use the TuneIn app on your iPhone, on your your iPad. Load it on your phone or iPad, plug it into your car, and you can listen to us all the way and at work as well. If you have an Android device, you can do the same thing at KCAA Express.com. So we have a wonderful show planned for you today. At first, we're going to be talking about nonprofit management. I work in the nonprofit industry as well as on the radio here, and we're going to be talking to Vu Lee about all of his work and his website called nonprofitwithballs.com, which is absolutely fantastic. Then we'll be followed by a discussion with Tim Watkins, who's the Chief Public and Legislative Affairs Officer for Sandbag, that's San Bernardino area government, and they talk about all things planning and transportation. So it should be a very informative show today. So without any further delay, I want to welcome Vu to the show. Vu, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. It's early, isn't it?
It is extremely early, but luckily my toddler woke up at 5 this morning.
Oh, how old is your toddler?
He is 2.
Oh, fun. What's his name?
Viet.
Oh, very cute, very cute. So let me real quick let everybody know. So I mentioned the nonprofitwithballs.com. You are a writer, a speaker, a vegan, a Pisces, and the executive director of the Rainier Valley Corps, a startup nonprofit with the mission of developing and supporting leaders of color to strengthen the capacity of ethnic-led nonprofits and foster collaboration between diverse communities to affect systemic change. Your passion is to make the world better, combined with a low score on the law school admission test drove you to the field of nonprofit work. You didn't like that LSAT, did you?
No, it was really terrible. Logic games, they were awful. Yeah.
So tell us about your nonprofit.
Yeah, Rainier Valley Corps is trying to get more leaders of color into the nonprofit sector. There's not enough of us. And so many issues affect communities of color, and oftentimes we're not at the table. and everyone's been scrambling trying to find more people of color to get onto their board or their committees. And the reality is that if we don't work on the supply side of this issue, then it's not going to work. People just haven't worked on the demand side, which is we need to find more people of color, but we have to work on the supply side.
And so, what is your thought about how to do that? How to engage people? I mean, down here in Southern California, we're as diverse as you're up in Washington, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're diverse down here as well, and I know you are, maybe different groups of people, but we find that we're on our boards especially, we're constantly wanting to engage people who kind of look like the audience or the families that are in our community, and that's a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have to do several different things. One is we have to create pipelines for leaders of color to enter the nonprofit sector and stay in it. We don't do enough of that. And we just kind of hope that they magically appear in the sector somehow. That's not realistic. So some examples are programs such as AmeriCorps Vista, drive people into the sector and support them. Unfortunately, Vista does not pay very well, and so it makes it unaffordable to many people. What I'm trying to do with Rainier Valley Corps is a somewhat similar program in that we recruit emerging, passionate leaders. We provide them with training and financial support and health care, and then we place them to work in these communities of color-led nonprofits, and they work there full time to get training and experience, and hopefully that will keep them in the sector. And also, we need to think about leadership. We have some leaders of color in the field, but eventually they will retire. Maybe it might not be for another 10 years, but if we don't start working on the next generation of leaders of color, I think the gap will widen in the future.
So I absolutely agree. We need a healthy pipeline of human capital as well as monetary capital coming into our nonprofits.
Right. So
I found you on the web by reading a hysterical blog post that you wrote called "Why the Sustainability Myth is Just as Destructive as the Overhead Myth," and you've had several other blog posts that have been very entertaining. Standardized answer to the sustainability question had all of my friends and I giggling. So why don't you talk about sustainability? And people outside of the nonprofit world may not understand what that means.
Yeah, sustainability is this sort of I think somewhat as a well-meaning delusion that nonprofits can be self-sustaining, meaning that we don't have to rely on foundations or the government for support. So everyone is going around asking, how are you going to be sustaining? How are you going to keep going when the money that I give you it runs out? And I think this is extremely distracting. It's like going to a restaurant and then asking the restaurant, well, I heard that your food is good, but how are you going to continue after I am gone, after I pay for my meal and I am gone? And, that sounds really weird to ask a restaurant.
You'd never say that.
Yet, we just don't ask a restaurant that. We focus on what is good. Are they making good food? And is it a good price? And then we just eat there. And if enough people do that, and if the restaurant is good, then we tell our friends, and our friends come by, and a bunch of people eat at this restaurant, and that's how the restaurant is sustainable. If a bunch of people go in and say, well, I'm not going to eat here unless you have a good sustainability plan, or I won't eat here until I'm sure that you're going to be around in 5 years or 10 years, and then they leave when you're wondering what the heck, why they're asking that. Then the restaurant cannot be sustainable because they're now focused on answering your questions and then trying to please you instead of actually focusing on making the food, which is what they're designed to do. So we nonprofits are trying to serve so many people and deal with so many different issues, but constantly we're spending so much time fundraising and justifying our work instead of actually doing our work sometimes. So that's a sustainability myth, and it's very damaging. It is as damaging as the overhead myth.
I agree, and Dan Pallotta wrote a book about that and had a TED Talk about the overhead myth, and do you want to talk about that one a little bit as well?
Yeah, well, the overhead is like, well, let's use the restaurant metaphor again. It's you go to the restaurant and you say, well, you don't focus on the food. You focus on how much is this restaurant spending on insurance and rent and electricity for the oven and stove. So you go to a restaurant and you say, well, I don't want to eat at this restaurant because you spent too much money on your electricity. It's way too much. And that's just kind of ridiculous. The restaurant needs all this stuff in order to produce good food. And it's just the same with us nonprofits. There's no way we could possibly do our work without paying for the rent and paying, salaries that can support a family for the staff. And we have to pay for insurance. Some of these things are required, like audit, financial management, and fundraising. These things are all required. There's no way we can get around them, and yet no one wants to pay for them. But these are the things that make it possible for nonprofits to do our work.
It's true. You often find foundations will say, well, I want to pay for programs only, as if that's somehow more noble. But if you don't pay your staff, you can't deliver your programs.
I've gone to lunches with some corporate sponsors and other foundations and funders, and some of them will say outright, we really hate paying for people's wages. We'll only pay for directly to people, or for program costs, or for supplies, computers for low-income people to use. And I just think, how are these programs being run? It's not like we have these magical elves who come out,
Yes.
when people are not looking and running programs and filling out reports and things.
Well, and I think a lot of people think that nonprofits, you can do it all with volunteers, and volunteers are wonderful, and they're very, very important to nonprofits. But you can't have volunteers managing your books, and you can't have volunteers making sure that you're complying with contracts and that sort of thing. You need staff to do that. You need people who are trained and understand how business works, and those people aren't free; they have families to feed too.
Yeah. Volunteers are wonderful, and we definitely need them. But again, someone has to rally the volunteers and coordinate them and make sure that they're having meaningful experiences. So yeah, it absolutely takes staffing.
So how can people follow you? Where can they? We mentioned your website, nonprofitwithballs.com, and I know that you write columns for other publications and that sort of thing. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, Nonprofit with Balls, I started a couple of years ago. It's a humor website, blog. It goes out every Monday morning. And it just talks about all the various different issues and challenges that we deal with in the sector. But also it uses humor, and I try to use a lighthearted approach usually. And that's because it can be a very stressful sector. The things that we deal with, all the different challenges that we deal with can be very stressful, and a lot of people in our field are burning out.
Yep.
So the blog is trying to put a humorous spin on things while addressing some very serious issues. So people can just go to nonprofitwithballs.com and put in their email, and they'll receive a post every Monday morning.
Now, you also have the ED Happy Hour. What is that?
ED Happy Hour is something I started 3 years ago, and it's a once a month executive directors get together, usually at a bar or preferably at another executive director's house. There is no agenda. We just drink and we complain about things and talk about our favorite TV shows. It can be really lonely being an executive director because you're the only one at your organization of your level. And it's very important for EDs to take time to meet with other EDs, and great things happen. It's therapeutic, first of all, but then you can also share resources or advice or templates, and it's really fun, and I find it to be one of the most helpful things for me. And there are chapters forming all around the country, and it's really great and fun, and I encourage all EDs to think about creating one or joining one.
That's fantastic. Well, Vu, it has been absolutely terrific having you on the air. We unfortunately you're out of time, so please keep doing what you're doing, keep writing what you're writing, because it sure is entertaining.
Great. Thank you very much, Aaron.
Thank you so much. You too. So we've been talking with Vu Lee. He is the he's a nonprofit executive director up in the Bay. Not the Bay Area. I'm sorry. Up in Seattle. He writes the nonprofitwithballs.com website, and for a whole lot of other publications. He's really fantastic in the nonprofit sector. I'm Erin Brinker.
I'm Tobin Brinker.
Confrontation.
We are on the brink. Sorry. I didn't know what was going on. We are on the brink here on KCAA AM 1050.
Listen to KCAA Loma Linda for less confrontation and more information.
At last, America's political leaders indicate that they now feel the pain of the poor and of the millions of working families slipping out of the middle class. Congress had previously paid no attention to the ever-widening chasm between the rich and the rest of us, but it has recently emerged as a central issue for such Republican presidential contenders as Jeb Bush, Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, and Marco Rubio. They're publicly lamenting the wealth gap and, by gollies, proposing solutions. Alas, though, the solution proposed by each of them is not to provide help for those who've been knocked down, but to offer aid to the same corporate elites who've been knocking down the middle class and holding down the poor. Specifically, their solution is to cut taxes on corporations and the rich, do away with environmental and labor protections, and cut or privatize government programs, from Head Start to Social Security, that ordinary people count on. For example, Senator Rubio proposes to kill the food stamp program, even though the need for it is greater than ever, and redirect that money into what he calls a subsidy for low-wage workers. Does he think we have sucker wrappers around our heads? That's not a subsidy for workers, but for low-wage employers. Why should taxpayers subsidize the poverty pay of profitable giants like McDonald's, rather than making them pay living wages and cover their own labor costs? This is Jim Hightower saying, I guess we should count it as progress that candidates are at least having to admit that inequality is a problem. But come on, offering the same old failed anti-government snake oil is an insult to the American people. Jeb Bush shows how vacuous their flimflammery is by saying that to address the ever-widening wealth and income gap, he'll, quote, celebrate success and cherish free enterprise. Gosh, what a comfort that'll be to America's hard-hit majority, huh?
Hi, everybody. Ray Lucia here. You know, we just saw the biggest jump in mortgage rates in more than 25 years. So now it's more important than ever to lock in your loan with a professional who has a thorough understanding of this wild mortgage market. That pro, Steve Aladort, the loan financial planner from Rancho Financial. Steve is one of the top 1% of mortgage originators in the entire country. And for years, Steve has worked with me, my family members and friends, and in most cases will close your loan in 30 days or less. Time is critical if you're ready to buy or refi. No one knows where rates will go next. Learn the advantages of working with a direct lender who can fast-track your loan. Steve Aladort can calculate which program is best for you and educate you about all of your options. Call the loan financial planner, Steve Aladort, at 888-563-1070. That's 888-563-1070. Or watch Steve's free home loan webinar at loanfinancialplanner.com. That's loanfinancialplanner.com.
Are credit card bills piling up faster than you can pay? How would you like to have a large portion of your credit card debt, medical bills, and department store debt forgiven? National Credit Card Relief would like to give you free information on a proven debt forgiveness program. This program has been used by thousands to legally forgive millions in unsecured debt. It's not bankruptcy. It's not consolidation. This special program actually wipes clean the portion of your debt that is forgiven from what you owe your creditors. Call for free information and get all your questions answered in the first free call. The more you owe, the more you can save. If you have at least $10,000 or more in credit card bills, this debt forgiveness program can be very effective. Call for free information and find out more now. 800-546-2909. There is no cost or obligation for the information. Don't wait. Call 800-546-2909. That's 800-546-2909. Get your debt problem solved. Call 800-546-2909 today.
You're listening to KCAA, your good neighbor along the way.
Welcome back. I'm Erin Brinker.
I'm Tobin Brinker.
We got Mark Westwood in the booth. We are on the brink, the morning show here on KCAA AM 1050. So up next, we are, and he's on the line now, is Tim Watkins. He is the Chief Public and Legislative Affairs Director for SANBAG, which is San Bernardino Area Governments. Tim, welcome to the show.
Good morning.
It's great to have you on. So talk to us. SANBAG always has a lot of projects going on. Why don't you give our listeners kind of a background on what SANBAG is and what you all do?
Oh, wow. Well, SANBAG has a lot going on, like you just said. I mean, primarily we're focused on transportation, but we also deal with some other just quality of life issues within the county. Essentially, SANBAG, or the San Bernardino Associated Governments, is a council of governments. Initially, that's what they started as in 1973, and then eventually evolved into, while maintaining that council of governments role, evolved into a transportation agency as well. We're the authority and the commission for San Bernardino County relative to transportation. The commission is responsible for kind of the distribution of transportation dollars within the county as they come from the state and federal levels. And the authority is the entity that manages the half-cent sales tax in San Bernardino County, Measure I. And so SANBAG serves as that council of government, the authority, and the commission. And within those roles in transportation, we deal a lot with transportation projects here in the county. Those are freeway-related projects that I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about today, as well as transit and rail projects as well, and then working with the cities on some of that funding distribution for their local improvements that they need to do.
Now, your council is made up of city council members and mayors from the various cities in the area. Is that correct?
That's right. Our board of directors, our decision makers for SANBAG, if you will, they're made up of elected officials from each of the 24 incorporated cities within the county, as well as the 5 county supervisors. And so that's what comprises our board of directors, and all decisions about the agency go through them.
Now, I was going to say, I have a love-hate relationship with SANBAG.
I hope there's more love than hate.
Yeah, me too.
Well, let me tell you, no, I hate it when the traffic gets jammed up because of all the work that's going on. I absolutely love it when the work is done. You guys have done some beautiful work. I now love driving through the 215 through San Bernardino with all the new widening and all the stuff, and you can get off on the west side like we can never do that before. I love that we can make the transition onto the 210. I love it now. But while the construction was going on, I hated it.
It's like remodeling your house.
It is. But
that's
but
a
you
great
guys
analogy. I think that's the thing. I try to reference that sometimes myself about, while you're fixing your bathroom, it's very inconvenient when you have to either be down to one or not have one at all. But when it's all done, it's a much better experience in the kitchen or anything else. So yeah, it's a great analogy.
I just wish we could do these things faster.
The love part of all the work that's going on directed at SANBAG, I think the love should really go to the taxpayers of San Bernardino County. We're a self-help county. I've talked about Measure I just a minute ago.
Yeah.
And Measure I plays a huge part in our ability to deliver all those projects that you're just talking about.
So talk about the
taxpayers are the ones that got us there.
So talk to us about the I-10, I-15 corridor. There's a whole lot going on both of those freeways.
Well, the demand is on both of those freeways for sure. I mean, within the San Bernardino County portion, especially here in the valley, and as you head up towards the high desert, that's really where the bulk of the demand for freeway use is. The I-10 on the west end of the system within our county can carry up to nearly 300,000 vehicles per day.
Wow.
Going through there. And on the I-15, somewhere in the neighborhood of 160,000, 180,000 vehicles per day. That's a huge demand on the infrastructure. And so what we're doing is studying some alternatives and trying to get people's input right now about how can we best address that from a freeway perspective. SANBAG looks at a variety of solutions to transportation challenges, which includes rail projects and bus transit options, but we're still very much a freeway-centric region. And the way that our area is spread out, well, part of that is required that we look at ways to manage traffic on the freeway systems, and so we're looking at ways on I-10 and I-15.
So one of the ways that you all are looking at managing that is express lanes. Can you talk about what those are? Some people call them Lexus lanes. I've heard that, but they actually relieve enough congestion to keep the other lanes moving. How does that work?
Well, express lanes are one of the options that we're looking at on I-10. Just to kind of set the foundation a little bit, what we're doing right now is studying alternatives for how to address the demand challenge that we have and the ongoing need to manage traffic performance over time, as well as being faced with declining funding sources from the state and federal level, as well as limited right-of-way. And so we're looking at alternatives, and express lanes is one of those alternatives. On the I-10, we're also looking at the extension of an HOV lane, or high occupancy vehicle, or a carpool lane. And so we're studying both of those. And right now, we're doing all the detail work so that our board of directors can ultimately make a decision that represents the folks of this county. Now, that being said, express lanes are an option that allows, it's a system management, it's a managed lane system, where through there's an HOV component, a carpool lane component, but there's also then an exchange of a toll in exchange for use of those lanes. The options that we're looking at are adding capacity to both of those corridors in this express lane option, not replacing existing lanes, but literally adding new lanes that would then be managed through either carpool lanes or through express lanes, depending on the decision made by the board.
So one of the arguments that people make against express lanes is that tax dollars have already paid for those freeways, and you know they feel that they're essentially being charged twice. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think in some areas where there's like conversion of systems, where there's an existing freeway that's being converted over to express lanes, I can kind of start to understand that argument. But in this scenario, what we're looking at in this county is not converting existing lanes. All of the existing freeway lanes that are available now will continue to be available for folks at a no-toll option. What we're talking about is adding new lanes under this express lane or carpool lane scenario.
Now, I know that transportation funding has not been free-flowing from the federal government over the last several years. So talk about a little bit how transportation funding comes about. Are we getting it from the state? Are we borrowing money? How does that work?
Well, funding comes in a variety of ways, and there's many different individual, if you will, pots of resources, but primarily it is a state and federal contribution, as well as then in this county, a local contribution through Measure I. But there are state dollars and there are federal dollars, and some of those are derived from different tax revenues, including gas tax type things. And so those revenue streams, though, have not kept up to pace with the demand. And so the project needs are far exceeding our funding capabilities. And so one of the things that why we're looking at these options on the I-10 and the I-15 is that it allows us to build one project that will ultimately allow us to manage over a longer period of time, because we just don't have the funding sources or the right-of-way or just the space to continue just to think that we can add more lanes over time. So we're trying to come up with a system that will allow us to manage performance better over a longer period of time.
Now, are you all going to have opportunities for the public to weigh in on some of these decisions, and are there open meetings planned? What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, it's an ongoing opportunity to learn more about the project and dialogue about it. But there's also, like I mentioned, we are studying this, and we're in the environmental process. If you're familiar with project delivery, and all of these projects go through an environmental process. We've done a lot of studies looking at the economic feasibility of an express lane alternative. We've done a lot of studies to look at the traffic and engineering feasibility, and all of the studies are evaluating it as a feasible project. We're now engaged in an environmental feasibility review, and that does a lot of studies with regulatory requirements from different resource agencies throughout the state and the federal government. And at that point, we generated a draft environmental document that we're expecting sometime around the end of the year, November time frame, December. And then there's a period of time where the public can actually provide comments on that environmental document that then we're required to then reply to, so that the people that evaluate this document, credence, if you will, looks at our response to those concerns expressed about the environmental document as well. That's the formal process to engage. But there's a lot of informal process that's happening between now and that time frame as well. There's comments. You can make comments on our website. We have what are called community advisory groups, which are representatives within the community that come together with us to learn about the project and then share with us what the concerns are too, so we can kind of proactively try to address those concerns and answer those questions as well.
Wow, it sounds terrific.
It's pretty comprehensive, and we've been very aggressive in trying to educate and inform people about what's happening with the project, because this is new, right? This is an innovative approach to the transportation challenges that we have in San Bernardino County. And it's really, our board is really interested in understanding what their constituents feel about this particular option. And so we've been very engaged in providing briefings to different community groups and city councils and what have you, as well as inviting people to participate in the conversation.
So if I'm a member of a Kiwanis or a Rotary or Lions or some other club, you all would come in and speak to our group?
Absolutely. In fact, via our website at sandbag.ca.gov, you can click on a project page, and there's email opportunities, you can call in, there's a helpline, and if you have a group that you would like us to come present to get more information about how this consideration is unfolding, we'd love to come out and talk to folks.
Well, this is terrific. I'm absolutely thrilled that you joined us today. Is there a website for the I-10 Corridor Project?
Yeah, and you just kind of said it, I-10corridorproject.com or .org. Either one will get you there. That gets you to the homepage of the project, and there's tabs within there that can show you all of the minutes from past community advisory group meetings. If you want to kind of catch up, if you will, on what some of the dialogue has been, you can get some of the details about some of the studies that have been shared, as well as some of the analysis of some of the economic and some of the engineering feasibilities that we've gone through as well. There's a lot of information there, and it's a good place to start on how to just get up to speed on what this project's all about, and then how you can participate in the conversation with us.
That's wonderful. I hope that you come back as this project unfolds, and all of your projects do. We want to be a source of getting information out to our listeners.
We'd love it. It's a good opportunity for us to share what's going on, and we really do want that kind of input from the public.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We've been talking with Tim Watkins, who is the Chief Public and Legislative Affairs Director for Sandbag. Tim, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So it's time for a break. I'm Erin Brinker.
I'm Tobin Brinker.
And Mark Westwood is in the booth. We are on the brink here on KCAA AM 1050. We will be right back.
This is KCAA.
California headline news: a teenage girl found guilty of starting last year's Cocos fire in Southern California will serve 400 hours of community service but no jail time. The prosecutor speaking after Wednesday's sentencing hearing in San Diego.
Honestly, it was heartbreaking to listen to. There were multiple victims here today. Some of them read statements. Some of them just spoke from their heart.
The girl could be ordered by the judge to pay millions in restitution. She admitted to setting the fire, which cost $28 million to fight. New study shows an alarming number of young, educated professionals, many working in Silicon Valley, leaving the state. Texas, the most popular destination because of lower housing and tax costs. Celebration in Oakland.
The phrase you thought you would not hear in your lifetime. The Golden State Warriors are going to the NBA Finals.
Warriors downing Houston in Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals, advancing to the championship round where they'll face the Cleveland Cavaliers beginning next week. Geico weather, the warming conditions continue. Jeff Scott, California News.
You can't smell it on my breath. It doesn't make me stumble around or pass out, but it gives me a tremendous buzz. I'm talking about gambling. I loved the action and I thought I could win it all back. In the end, I lost more than money. I hurt everyone who cared about me.
If the funds become something that's hurting you or your family, get help. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-GAMBLER. A message from the California Office of Problem Gambling.
Geico presents 15 Things to See and Do in California. Southern California has wonderful conditions for whale watching. Blue whales and gray whales can be viewed at various times of the year. Guided whale watching tours are available year-round in many of the coastal towns and provide an up-close look at these incredible mammals. That's one of 15 things to see and do in California, brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Call 1-800-947-AUTO or visit geico.com.
There's a man named Dr. Wallach who is anything but your typical doctor. Both a veterinarian and naturopathic physician, Doc asks, why does the United States spend more money on health care by far and still rank 50th in health and longevity worldwide? He believes that people should empower themselves with a basic understanding of nutrition, taking charge of their life, and attain optimal health and longevity through nutrition, not by toxic prescription drugs leading to side effects. This is clearly a deadly recipe. The good news is Doc Wallach's message is resonating with an increasing number of Americans who are waking up to all the big government and big pharma manipulation of our healthcare system. I like what Doc Wallach is saying and doing to enlighten people about healthcare.
Well said, Alex. Join the movement today. To purchase longevity products, go to www.kcaaradio.com. Click on the Buy Longevity image or call toll-free 855-909-3047. That's 855-909-3047.
Listen to KCAA Loma Linda for less confrontation and more information. Are you particular about the vitamins and supplements you take? Have you found that the big chain stores simply don't have what you need? Then you should know about the Vitamin Center of Agora Hills. You'll find rock-bottom prices on gourmet, top-quality vitamins and mineral supplements at the Vitamin Center. Get 30% off on all supplements and homeopathic products. All, not just selected merchandise. In addition, you'll find 30% off on all cosmetics, soaps, shampoos, toothpaste, makeup, hair coloring, and lip gloss. And all tea products are discounted 20%. Why go anywhere else? See for yourself at the Vitamin Center of Agora Hills, 5007 Canaan Road in Agora Hills. Or check out the savings and place your order online, VitaminCenterAgoraHills.com. Start saving by getting what you need from the Vitamin Center of Agora Hills. And tell a friend that the Vitamin Center ships nationwide. Call 818-707-0005. That's 818-707-0005. The Vitamin Center of Agora Hills. KCAA is your CNBC news affiliate. We're the station that gets down to business.
Welcome back. I'm Erin Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
And we have Mark Westwood in the booth. We are on the... What'd you say?
I said good morning.
Good morning. We are on the brink, the morning show on KCAA AM 1050. There is a story that's pretty troubling coming out of the press enterprise this morning. You want to talk about that, Tobin?
They're stealing our credit card information, Aaron, and we've got to stop them.
Not the press enterprise, somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. The press enterprise writing about this guy. They caught him in San Bernardino. A San Bernardino man who was investigated says investigators say had thousands of people's credit card information on his computers has been arrested. Sarab Frankian, 42, was arrested Thursday, May 21st on suspicion of identity theft, credit card fraud, and being a felon with a gun, jail records show. He was booked into the Central Detention Center and released on bail by Tuesday, the jail records and a San Bernardino County Sheriff's news relief said. And a detective identified Frankian as a suspect in a credit card fraud case and tracked him down at his home in the 3400 block of F Street. When deputies pulled up about 11:30 p.m., they saw Frankian outside the home, but he ran inside the house when he saw the sheriff's officials. Frankian refused to come out, so the detectives got a search warrant and went in. Investigators found several computers that contained thousands of people's credit card information. They also found equipment used to manufacture counterfeit credit cards and driver's licenses, along with 3 guns, including an assault rifle and a stolen handgun, the release said.
Wow.
Frankian has a prior felony conviction for credit card fraud, and he was arrested in the house. And they're still investigating, and they want anyone with information to call their WeTip number, 909-387-3545. This is so disturbing. I mean, we worry about this. I know this is why we have the LifeLock for our stuff.
We do.
But even with LifeLock, I've heard some folks have been, have still.
Yes, it still happens, but and it is really frightening. It is frightening because somebody could wreck you. Somebody could file a false tax return using your number, and if there's any refund, they get the refund, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, at the Gary Garver Controlled Chaos show, he was talking about somebody who had stolen somebody's Veterans Administration card.
Oh, no.
That's sick.
And then checked themselves into the hospital. The person died. And then the person that normally would have those veterans benefits tried to claim their benefits and get treatment and couldn't get treatment, and they've got a big mess on their hands.
Oh my gosh.
That's a terrible case of identity theft.
Oh, my gosh.
I just get so disgusted by these things, and it seems like it's relatively easy for these people to do this. This is what's so bad. This guy is just some guy off the street. He's got thousands of records. where did he get them from? Is he hacking them online? There's so much information and so much data out there. And then he's got a machine that's allowing him to make his own fake credit cards. Where do you get that machine? I mean, it just seems like society has made it so easy for these people to rip us off. You don't have to go with a gun into a bank anymore. You can sit at home on a computer and rob people blind. I mean, this just disturbs me. I want to know how they did it.
And that's just the person here in the United
it.
States. Then you maybe talk about people in Russia that are doing it or other places. Yeah,
shut them down. How can we shut these guys down? And our police departments, God bless them, but they don't have the resources to deal with this kind of stuff.
No, they really don't.
They don't. So this stuff goes underreported, under-investigated compared to the other crimes, and it just
and they just happen to stumble on this guy.
Yeah,
and his big mistake is not coming out and letting himself getting arrested, because otherwise they wouldn't have discovered all his cache of illegal stuff.
Well, we have an issue over in my local school district that my teachers union discovered, where we had some people complain about some credit card issues that they were having, and someone sort of began to see a pattern that maybe it was people within the district, and they wondered where that information was coming from. And it's an ongoing investigation. I don't know that it's been resolved yet, but it took a while for people just talking amongst each other to say, "Oh, I've had this happen to me. I've had it happen to me," and begin to sort of piece it together, and then speaking to their union reps, begin to sort of figure out that something was happening, that this wasn't just an isolated thing that had happened to an individual, but there was actually a pattern of activity, and where's it coming from? Who's doing it?
Inside, maybe, inside out, and maybe somebody gets themselves hired with that very purpose in mind. You know?
And that's why I'm saying it's difficult to catch these guys, and it just seems way too easy for them to get away with it. And we need better resources to go after this kind of crime, because it's way too prevalent now.
And then we pay for it in higher costs of goods and services and everything else. And because the credit card companies, ultimately a lot, because they want to keep their customers and everything, they'll protect their customer.
Yeah.
And they eat that loss.
Well, okay, but they charge so much in interest, they can cover that loss.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and that's why those interest rates are so high on credit card debt, right?
Because it's that high because they can.
Well, I got an American Express pitch for the company the other day. They want the Kcaa to have an American Express card, but we don't believe in that. And we're Dave Ramsey. We don't have credit cards. Dave Ramsey says, no credit cards. You ever listen to the Dave Ramsey show? Yeah, that's what it says.
We love Dave Ramsey.
Yeah. Anyway, he's no credit cards. But they wanted a annual fee of $459.
Are they out of their minds?
I was like scissors, like 2 seconds. Just chop, chop, chop,
well,
chop, chop.
Give me and is it a credit card, or is it like a just a charge card in that? Because usually
it's
American Express, you have to pay it off every month.
Yeah.
And at that point,
credit card. But yeah, it's a corporate card, yeah.
Yeah, and so, whereas credit cards you can carry a balance. American Express used to be a little different. I don't know if they still are. But why would anybody pay that annual fee? That doesn't make any sense at all.
It was like Ezra Scissorhands in my office. Chop,
yeah,
chop, chop.
Yeah, seriously. Golly, I
can't flying everywhere.
I can't imagine anybody would sign up for that.
No.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. So do we need to take another break, Mark?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Just check in. Just check, because I know that I kind of blew through the first one, so I apologize.
No, that happens.
You know how Erin gets when we get a good guest on the show. She just keeps talking.
I just keep talking.
Yeah. Well, the Caltrans guy, I was very fascinated by that.
Indeed. Yeah. We need to have them back on. We really do.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people upset about that diamond lane, the toll lane, and I've seen stuff on the internet by a particular individual who's even made YouTube videos about it. I don't know if you've seen that person or not. Wow, it's like, they're pretty upset about that.
Well, then they need to, instead of, ranting and raving on Facebook, they need to engage with Sandbag and with their city council and with their...
Oh, she has.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's some people,
there
are some people who are just gadflies, and if they're not complaining about that, they'll be complaining about something else. And honestly, you can't even listen to those people because they're never happy. But then there are other people who have legitimate complaints, and then they need to bring them up and be willing to dialogue about them.
But sometimes they have something that might be valid or some validity to something they're saying. So you can't wholesale discount them. But yeah, a lot of times they discount themselves by their actions and behavior.
Well, exactly. I mean, if these gadflies who go to meetings, there's somebody who dresses as a clown and goes to county supervisor meetings.
No kidding.
No kidding. And I've seen this guy there, and it's really, dude, come on. Anybody is not. No, there's nobody. There isn't anyone who's going to take this guy seriously.
I'm surprised he can get through security.
Well, I mean, he's free to get through. He doesn't have any weapons, or he's just weird. But
his little clown nose.
Yes,
they have to inspect it for terrorism.
But there are gadflies who they're just always at the podium complaining about something.
I make light of it, but yeah,
it drives me crazy.
Yeah. Well, and they're always there. That's their lives. They don't have anything else going on in their lives. So, and sometimes they have valid points, and we have to listen to everybody, and that's why it's a democracy and public and all that stuff. But yeah, you're right. You're right.
Well, the alternative on the 10 freeway appears to be if we don't go to something like that, there's no money to then otherwise fix the freeway, to reduce the congestion. So you either live with the congestion we've got, or we do something that brings in some additional revenue that can then fund the widening of the freeway.
I've had this idea for a long time. I'll share it with you.
Okay.
This is innovation, I think. They have all these freeway signs that as you go down the freeway, right, you see the front of the sign. But there's backs to those signs, too. This may be crazy. But I thought, why don't they sell the backs of those signs for advertising and put billboards so that when you're going down the other side of the freeway, you can see billboards on the other
Billboards
side.
are really distracting to drivers.
Yeah. Another idea that's
But they have the electronic ones and all that, too.
Yeah. They do indeed.
Another idea, though, that has been talked about is making a designated truck lane, and those guys pay. Make it for them because they're the ones that are tearing up the roads the most with all those heavy trucks.
That's
and we have
idea.
a lot of
I like
transport,
that.
a lot of trucks. So put them in their own designated toll lane that they have to pay on. Now of course that fee, that cost on those truckers is going to get passed on in the cost of those goods when they get to their end destination, right? I mean that's.
And there's so many more trucks on the road. This is my little beef now, my rant today. I'm a frequent flyer on the 10 freeway in Redlands and Yucaipa, and sometimes those trucks are now taking the number 2, 3, and 4 lane.
That's true.
They do.
And they're not supposed to do that. I mean, pretty soon they're going to be in the fast lane too. Yeah, you're right. They need to pay extra or something because it's ridiculous.
On the one side, we have seen an uptick of trucks, and part of that is because the ports were shut down for a long time, and they had this backlog of goods that had to get out, et cetera, et cetera. But also, it just means that people are buying stuff again, and that's good for our economy. However, you are right. I mean, trucks need to stay in the lanes that they're designated to be in, and not in the other lanes. It's very, very frustrating, especially also if they're so close to one another often that you want to get over to get off to your off ramp, and you can't in your car because there's not enough room and you don't want to be sandwiched between two huge trucks that are driving too close together.
Now, the interesting thing that does happen, though, whenever you do a public policy thing like this, if you made designated truck lanes that they had to pay for, then some of these people would come up with alternate ways to transport their goods. So maybe you see a whole bunch more trains now than you have in the past because maybe that ends up being cheaper than putting them on trucks. So you have to kind of weigh that out as to what happens.
Some of these trucks aren't fully loaded either. They need to pay for an extra fee or something to say fully load their trucks because they've got 2 or 3 items in a truck sometimes with a big tractor trailer.
Do you know it's funny? We have a brother-in-law who that's what he does is he sells open space on trucks, and there are people out there who do that. It's actually good business. But you're right; they should be full. And as far as tracks are concerned, I mean, infrastructure. We need more tracks. We need more rail tracks. Right now, it's one direction only. So one part of the day they're going east, another part of the day they're going west. We need to lay more tracks down. This is for UP and BNSF. We need more tracks.
Absolutely. And, there's cost in it, but there's cost in everything. And eventually it pays off anyway. So they get their money back.
Right. Well, I mean, and here's the thing. It pays off in productivity. If people can get the things that they need and get to work and back, we have a productive society. It builds wealth for the nation. We want that. We want entrepreneurs and people in big business, small business, and everything in between to be able to do their business, and that drives our economy. So
and
I think
safety.
And safety. Yeah. I think laying tracks would be a good idea.
Well, laying tracks and charging for the truck lanes also transfers the cost to these people that are coming through our county but don't necessarily live here.
Right.
So we get it gives us some benefit to the fact that they have to go through our giant county to get to the other parts of the United States to deliver their goods. And we should be able to cash in on that a little bit because
the Alameda Corridor, that's what we are and part of, and they need to pay for it. It's just user fee. Who's using it should pay for it.
Right. And I don't want to say cashing in because that sounds negative, like we're profiteering. We're not. They need to cover the cost of maintaining the roads that they're tearing up.
Well, those trailers that are half full of banging down the road there, they tear up our roadways.
They do tear up our roadways. They do.
We got a couple minutes left.
So there was did you see the picture of the flight attendant standing in the engine of an airplane?
I did. I thought it was beautiful, by the way. I thought it was a nice picture.
But it's colossally stupid. If somebody were to turn those engines on, she would have been sucked in.
Yeah, but they weren't going to. She works for the airlines. It's not like, people knew she was there doing this. Nobody was going to turn the engine on while she's sitting there.
So a Spirit Airlines flight attendant found herself in the middle of a controversy after passengers spotted her posing for photos inside a jet engine. A passenger saw stewardess Erica Page Deal posing for photos while passengers boarded the Spirit Airlines flight at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport. The passenger took down the flight attendant's name and contacted ABC station WLS, asking if the photo was part of a new pre-flight checklist. The passenger then found out that Deal posted the photos on her Facebook page, WLS reported. Spirit Airlines said in a statement about the photos, the activity portrayed in the photo absolutely goes against Spirit policy. But for many in the flying community, the outrage over the photo shoot is unmerited. Sylvester Pittman, an aviation consultant with the airline guys and former flight attendant, said such photos are popular for flight crews. Who does this passenger think they are, contacting the media and all? Give me a break.
Okay, I think this whole thing was a plant that Spirit Airlines did to get themselves in the news.
Maybe.
Right? I've never heard of Spirit Airlines. Now
but I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't stand in an engine. No way.
No, I wouldn't either. But, maybe they were all in on it.
Free media, Aaron.
Exactly. Well, it's working.
Yeah.
We're talking about it, right?
That's right.
So we're at the end of our show. I'm Aaron Brinker.
I'm Tobin Brinker.
We got Mark Westwood in the booth. We are on the brink, the morning show on KCAA, AM 1050. Have a fantastic, productive Thursday.
60 degrees and we're out on time today.
Woo!
No offense to you, don't waste your time. Here's why. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel.
You're on board KCAA's Inland Talk Express. KCAA, Loma Linda, 1050 AM, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Rivers overflowing in Texas, saving the Patriot Act. I'm Michael Toscano.
This month of May is the wettest month of May ever on record.
Meteorologist Chad Myers with new information from the Texas State climatologist. Floodwaters are surging now in Horseshoe Bend, Texas, the Brazos River almost cresting. In Wharton, residents living near the Colorado River have been told to prepare for evacuation, and the waters of the San Jacinto River are expected to flood streets in suburban Houston. The Patriot Act is due to expire in a few days, and with it, the bulk collection of phone records. Congress is still on vacation, but White House spokesman Josh Earnest wants the Senate to pass the bipartisan bill already approved by the House.
It would make sure that the government has the ability to conduct roving wiretaps, to use the lone wolf provision to try to identify individuals who may be tempted to carry out a terror attack. It also would give our national security professionals access to data that our law enforcement professionals already use.
The Senate scheduled to return to work on Sunday, the law expiring that night. I'm Michael Toscano.
We are the Breakfast Defectors. We are reaching out to anyone trapped in their AM routine. We'll be at Taco Bell every morning starting at 7 a.m. You don't have to eat the same circle sandwiches over and over. Same is lame. You have options, delicious ones, like the Biscuit Taco, AM Crunch Wrap, Grande Scrambler, Mountain Dew Kickstart, Cinnabon Delights, or Hot and Iced Coffee. Stop clowning around. Join us.